Hey everyone, welcome to my first character guide. I really didn't want to start making one, until I've made all of the basic stuff about the game. But I feel like I've done that, so you can go check it out here on my channel. We have guides for beginners about building your characters, weapons and artifacts, stat balancing and stuff. So yeah, please check it out here on my channel. And now, I just have to say, maybe moving forward, please don't expect a very technical or mathematical approach. Since I, for one, just basically play for fun. And I'm not part of any theory crafting groups whatsoever. I don't theory craft myself, so I'm really just inclined to sharing what I know would be fun or fluid gameplay wise. So yeah, and with that, again, welcome. This is Godric, and let's take a look at Genshin Impact's latest character, Kamisato Ayato. We are now at the version 2.6 of the game, and one of the most anticipated additions, of course, is our new character, Ayato. And I'm pretty sure you already know that he's the older brother of Ayaka, who's gonna have her first rerun on the second phase of this patch, right? So, Ayato's been long anticipated, since he was first mentioned in-game. And back then, he didn't even have a face yet, but you could see his name, everywhere, and even on social media, more so. So, yeah, finally, he's here, and we can discuss more about him as we look at him here. So yeah, he's a Hydro Sword character, and his kit mainly focuses on enhanced normal attacks. And what's interesting here is, at least for me, Ayato seems to have this in-between kit of being main DPS capable, or a support or sub DPS, but more on that later. Let's first look at his talents. Of course, first is his normal attack, and it gives you up to 5 strikes. It could also be charged or plunging, basic stuff. Then, moving on to his elemental skill, Kamisato Ayato. So, it has this wall of text, but I'll explain it the best way I can. So, his skill is his main damage dealer. It's his bread and butter, if you will. And once you activate it, Ayato will enter the Takemiguri Kanka state. It renders his normal attacks to become very fast, and it's also converted to AoE Hydro damage. To add, it can't be overridden, so you could use your Chongyun skill or your C6 Bennett burst, so it won't be affected. But also, keep in mind that he can only do normal attacks in this state, no charge or plunge attacks. So that being said, basically when you use his skill, even if you hold, he won't do charge attacks and will continuously do normal attacks instead. Of course, since these are normal attacks, stamina consumption won't be an issue. And through testing, without any external buff, I make about 14 to 15 slashes, and in addition to him doing the sort of blinking attack similar to Raiden Shogun on her burst form. Now, you gain Namisen stacks, which are also based off of his HP, but I really suggest that you don't make him dependent on HP, as it's only minimal. Simply put, each slash that you do in this state will become stronger up to a cap of 4. So, buffing his attack speed will also be beneficial, of course, since you'll be able to make more slashes in the short 6-second duration of the state. And we could also observe that the illusion he creates, when Ayato uses his skill, it would still explode even if he's still in the Takemiguri Kanka state. So, even if monsters approach it, it would still explode. Now moving on to his burst, Kamisato Ayato, it's something that some players, call as the Hydro Ganyu burst. Because it unleashes this wide area of raining Hydro damage, but it does look kind of similar. But in addition to that, it buffs normal attacks of the party members, including Ayato himself. Okay, so next are his passive talents. First is the daily cooking, where similar to Hu Tao, Ayato has a chance of giving you a sus dish, very in character. And then next we have Michiyuku Hagetsu. So when he's not on field and he has less than 40 energy, Ayato will regenerate 2 energy every second. So this ties perfectly with his burst, where you really are somehow forced to swap characters, so you could utilize it even more. Of course, after bursting, you'd have 0 energy, right? So this is where the passive comes into picture. And finally, we have the Miniwo Matoishi Kiyotaki. So this is tied to his skill, the Kyoka, and he immediately gains 2 Namisen stacks, and when his illusion explodes, he will gain Namisen stack or effect per max stack possible. So what I'll say here is, and with his skill, generally, is that overall, You just have to do normal attacks in that state as much as you can and as much as possible, to utilize the effects. Now, his talents pretty much tell us that Ayato is, like I said earlier, someone that fits the role similar to Inazuman characters, namely Raiden or Yoimiya. Since they can be on field, right? But you occasionally need to rotate. I mean, naturally, in any team, you need to rotate. But what I'm trying to say is, for example, with Raiden, you need to rotate and burst through all of your characters, right? So you could fill your resolve stacks. And the same thing with Yoimiya is to maximize her burst, which procs the fireworks. And in Ayato's case, it's to maximize the normal attack buffs that he provides. Also, not to mention, he applies Hydro to the area, so you could take advantage and, apply Hydro for any elemental reaction that you want. But that being said, since Ayato's burst is sort of gone use, in terms of the random raining of attacks, you're gonna have a hard time going for any elemental reaction, like I said, since the Hydro application isn't as fast. So that being said, he's definitely a DPS, I'd say, and a great Hydro applier via his burst, although, we could expect that it won't accurately hit everything at once, since we should also consider internal cooldowns. So, overall, its wide area is, of course, very useful, especially for Vaporize, Freeze teams, or Electrocharge. So, I want to reiterate that I'm not going to be able to provide technical details about damage and stuff, so all I can give you guys is context. Weapon rankings and such will be better sought from other sources, admittedly. But what I can give you guys is if a weapon would be beneficial for him or not. So naturally, 5-star weapons give us better scaling and passives, but let's look at our 4-star options first. So like I said, I won't have a weapon ranking, but I'll just comment on what each of the swords can do for Ayato. So starting off, if you're an F2P, I guess the most F2P friendly weapon is the Aminoma Kageyuchi. It's the Inazuman craftable weapon. You can use it on him as a generic weapon, either making him your on-field DPS or your burst DPS, but you just have to make sure that you capture all of the 3 stacks, before you burst for its full potential. The next, we have the Blackcliff Longsword from the shop. So it's easy to build around because it has a crit damage substat. Then the next one, I feel like we don't have much options for F2P. I mean, because the next we can consider as the most viable is the Battle Pass weapon, the Black Sword, which is also a great crit rate stat stick. So you don't have to refine it to, R2 onwards. It's good as R1 as it is. That being said, the other 4-star options, for me, I'd say that they won't really benefit you too much. Like the Prototype Rancor, it has a physical damage substat, so it won't help you as much. Then the Flute is pretty basic. You can use it, but you may have trouble building around it. Then the other ER weapons, the Favonius and the Sacrificial Sword, I don't think that you should use it on him because, other characters can utilize it even more. So yeah. Then if you're planning to use, or if you have the Festering Desire, unfortunately it doesn't affect his skill, so you can't utilize it on Ayato. And then I think it's worth mentioning, if you're interested in building a Taser team with Ayato and you have no other weapon options, you can use the Lion's Roar. It could be used, but it also has an attack substat, so you have to build around that too. As well as, you need to rely on, having Electrocharge reaction all the time. And special mention, we have the Harbinger of Dawn, which you can use because of its crit damage substats, so another easy build for Ayato. Now, 5-star weapons, I don't have a lot too, but I was cursed, sort of, with having 3 copies of the Jade Cutter, so I also have the Mist Splitter, luckily. And then, just recently, while I'm recording this and while I'm testing things out, earlier I got also his signature weapon, the Haran Gipukufutsu. So please check out my pulling session video. You can check it out. I'm still having goosebumps right now because it was really lucky. Anyway, yeah, so if you have the other 5-star weapons, you can go for them. Like I said, the 5-star weapons are naturally better, but the Aquila Favonia, it feels like it would lose value with Ayato since, its substat is physical damage. But yeah, at the same time, we have Summit Shaper, which is, I think, niche in a way. With its passive, you have to keep your shield up And yeah, but it's good overall since, high attack scaling. Next, we have Skyward Blade. Could be useful, pretty handy passive, and better for Ayato if you want to use him in a quick swap team or something similar. And Freedom Sworn, better of course for EM hungry characters, for Kazuha. And then, I guess his best weapons would be either one of these three, the Mist Splitter, the Primordial Jade, or the signature weapon, Haran Gipaku Futsu. So let's look at Mist Splitter first. I feel like it's the same with Amenoma Kageyuchi in the sense that, in terms of stacking, because this weapon stacking works differently. You'll have to keep it in check and, if you're maximizing it. But because of Ayato's mechanic, you could really reach the required stacks for this weapon. So there's gonna be no issue about that. And then Primordial Jade Cutter, premium crit rate stat stick. And it also helps, Ayato with his skill because of the Namisen stacks. It scales off of HP, right? So there's a little boost there. And with that, you can easily build his artifacts around it because of the high crit rate. And finally, his weapon, the Haran Gipaku Futsu. So of course, it's designed for him. And if you have spare gems, you can go for it. But if you don't like the other featured weapon, the Elegy, I suggest you don't. It's a common rule for weapon banners since you're gonna have to be ready to maximize your gems for it. So yeah, it's also a decent crit rate stat stick, and the passive is actually designed for him. And you can see if the passive took effect when you see this symbol right here. So yeah, that's about it. So overall, if you have either of the two weapons, Primordial Jade Cutter or the Mist Splitter, you can use either one of them. Ayato can utilize it very well himself, and these weapons are, pretty generic and can be used by your other characters as well. I have to say, unlike the Haran Gipaku Futsu, it's like designed specifically for him, for his kit. So yeah. So now we know that Ayato can be treated as a generic DPS, or he could be treated as a support, a Hydro applier. So that's up to you. So endgame and resin efficiency wise, I suggest that you prioritize stats over set bonuses. But for clarity and for specific roles you want him to fill, 4-piece Heart of Death set is the best for a main on-field DPS, capitalizing on his skill. You could also use 4-piece Gladiator's Finale, a good generalist set, for the 18% for 2-piece and additional 35% attack bonus for the 4-piece. So I'm pretty sure you already have a lot of this, from when you started the game. And if you're eyeing the new 4-piece Echoes of an Offering set, this will be more efficient if used on an on-field DPS Ayato. So it's similar to the Heart of Death. On the other hand, if you plan on making him a burst DPS or a Hydro applier, yeah, you can use the 4-piece Noblesse if no one else in your party is using it. Although it would feel like you're butchering him. I don't know. Yeah, so if you have no decent pieces yet, you can of course mix and match 2-piece combinations. Of course, depending on your preferred role for him. But in general, a combination of any of the 2-piece sets and 2-piece Heart of Death will do. And for our new players, if you haven't unlocked the 5-star artifacts yet, as I always say here in my videos, you can use what you have and you don't need to stress yourself out. So you can go for a general DPS build of going for attack percent Sands, Hydro damage Goblet, and Crit Circlet. And that being said, stat priority are as follows. Of course, crit rate and or crit damage, attack percent, HP percent, ER percent if you feel like you're not bursting on cooldown, and elemental mastery, especially if you're going for vape or electrocharge team comps. However, like I said earlier, you don't have to look for HP stats too much, as the Namisen stack bonus for HP is only minimal. So it's preferable if you go for crit stats and, maximize your crit value over anything else. So for Ayato's Constellations, right off the bat, I'd say stick with C0, the end. But, if you like his character, if you're one of those waifu or husbando over meta kind of person, then by all means, go for it. But if you're an F2P, a low spender, or you'd like to base it on the meta, I'd say that he's a great character even at C0. And I feel like the Constellations don't give him that much, to be fair. And yeah, I'm personally having fun using him at C0. So let's go through each of them. one by one. So C1 is a slight boost on his skill, but not that significant, I'd say. So it's not something that you should go for specifically. And then C2, another skill boost. So yeah, pretty explanatory. Yeah. And C3 and C5 are, you know, +3 levels to his skill and burst. And C4 is sort of a team buff. You know, after using his burst, all of your party members gain attack speed bonus. Only normal attack speed. So yeah, even Ayato can use it himself. And then C6 is where his DPS potential, you know, stands out even more. But it only deals an additional 2 strikes from his first use of his skill. So yeah, scaling is pretty high and independent of the Namisen stacking. So still good overall, but not really, you know, something that you should spend your money on. And then, as with all other 5-star characters, you know, we see how his final constellation sort of gives him this OP output. But like I said, he's fun just on C0, and I don't really think that it's gonna be meta defining or anything. So yeah. So after trying him out, testing his kit, you know, I have to say that Ayato is a flexible unit in a way. And like we talked about before, he's a good on-field DPS or burst support and a hydro applier. And I personally don't see any energy issues when you use him. So that being said, since he's also hydro, he can fit in almost any team comp. Albeit, you know, you have to build a team around his kit. So here are some of the team comps that I've tried myself. We have the straightforward Vape with shielders, Hu Tao or Zhongling with Yunjin, Coma, or Zhongli. So Hu Tao can work despite her having, you know, better scaling on charge attacks. However, normal attacks actually slip before her charge attacks, so somehow you could still make it work. And then Yunjin would provide either Hu Tao or Ayato with attack speed buffs, of course. Just make sure that you rotate properly. And then either Zhongli or Toma can be your dedicated shield bot. The weak point here would be that there's just this close perfection to synergy between Hu Tao and Shengchu that you have to find the balance, you know, if you replace Shengchu with Ayato. And in addition, you can tweak this team, like I said, with Xiangling instead of Hu Tao, similar to how you would use Xiangling with Shengchu. So having double pyro with Hu Tao or Xiangling with Toma also means that you get additional attack percent bonus, you know, from the resonance. And of course, naturally, you could also run a freeze team, similar to how you would a Morgana team. And instead of using Kokomi or Mona, of course, you could replace them with Ayato. And it's pretty flexible. You could use any cryo characters almost, and of course, include a Viridescent Venator Shredder. So yeah. So of course, we have the Electro Charge team, where we utilize Ayato's, you know, wide area hydro application. So you could either use Raiden, Yaimiko, or Beidou Official, either of the two of them, and good enough as it is, since you can spam a lot of electro damage, even more so when you pair them with Ayato. So once you have these three, you can opt for even more normal attack buff for Yunjin, or go for a shielder or healer if you feel like you need one. And then, a variation of the renowned national team, we're gonna replace Shengchu with Ayato. So the rotation is the same, but you can make Ayato your on-field attacker. So yeah, Ayato's pretty flexible. You could try to create your own teams, but unfortunately, I just couldn't test every character with him since I don't have, you know, all of the characters. But if you're planning to, you know, try a team composition of your own, you can check out my guide about team building, so you'd know how to look for what each party member would be contributing to one another. Yeah, please check it out. So if you still haven't decided if you're going for Ayato, I have to say he's not really a must pull, as that will always depend on your preference, you know, be it for meta, design wise, or whatever reason, it's on you. But Ayato's position, or kit rather, in the current meta is something worth considering. Also, the fact that he's a hydro unit, you know, gives him more opportunity to shine in other team comp. So like what I keep saying, he's pretty flexible, you know, since it has different elemental reactions. Yeah, so there you go. I hope I was able to help you out in building for your Ayato, or help decide at least if you should go for him or not. So now we're gonna have another welcome giveaway. And since the winner from our last one didn't claim their prize, we're gonna have two blessings of the welcome moon this time. So to qualify, simply please subscribe and comment which standard 5-star character is your favorite and why. So yeah, please let me know in the comments, and winners will be announced in one of my videos next week. So please watch out. And I'm very particular about following the instructions. So please make sure that you listen to it carefully and follow it. You should also know that I read all of the comments and I really appreciate them. So yeah, of course, once again, if we reach the 1000 subscriber mark, I'm also gonna give away one Gnostic Heme Battle Pass. So please share this to your friends, and so we could have that for you guys as well. And at the same time, please let me know if there's any other stuff you want us to talk about. And I also apologize for having this guide up pretty late, days after Ayato actually released, since I was busy with work and stuff. So yeah, anyway, I appreciate all of your likes, comments, and your subscription. That being said, I hope that you continue to support my work. I'm always here to listen to your comments, if they would help me improve, especially. So you can reach out to me on my socials, on my about page. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one.